So today I'm creating a nightmare situation for our opponents, effectively locking them out of the game as any creature they play will end up being destroyed, but mine will always survive the chaos. Hey everyone, Hex here, and today I've got such a cool deck with two sweet combos that I can't wait to show you. Don't forget though to like and subscribe below, it massively helps out, and I want to thank you all for your support that you give this channel. But onto this deck, and firstly let's talk about the synergy between Up the Beanstalk and Arcane Bombardment. So Up the Beanstalk is a 2-cost enchantment that when it ETBs and whenever you cast a spell with 5 CMC or greater, you draw a card. A lot of cards will end up triggering this, like our 6 CMC Arcane Bombardment. But this card does so much more with the Beanstalk. It says when you cast your first instant or sorcery each turn, exile a random instant or sorcery from your graveyard, then copy each card exiled by the bombardment, then you may cast any number of them for free. They still retain the original CMC, which means if you have a 5 mana spell exiled under the bombardment, you can trigger the Beanstalk when casting just a 1 mana instant. I hope that makes sense, but I have crafted the rest of the deck around this and I have plenty of footage showing this sweet interaction. Next though, I want to speak about my favourite combo I've been playing with recently to deal with the meta that I've been facing, and as luck would have it, fits perfectly in this deck. That's with Thrun, Breaker of Silence, and boardwipes, specifically Burn Down the House in this deck. So Thrun is a 5-drop 5/5 Troll Shaman that can't be countered, has trample, can't be the target of non-green spells your opponents control, and as long as it's your turn, it is also indestructible. This card is so good at the moment against most decks that I've been playing. The perfect situation here is to get Burn Down the House under your Arcane Bombardment with an Up the Beanstalk on the battlefield, then make 1/1 Devils on your opponent's turn and board wipe on yours. It's way too much for your opponent when it gets to this point, as there is just simply too much going on. Our other 2 win cons include Forge, which will always survive the mass removals, and Invoke the Ancients. Just 1 copy here, but it's a nice late game sorcery that for 5 mana again creates 2 green spirits with either Vigilance, Reach or Trample. Cards like this make the Beanstalk such a cool addition to the deck. The rest of the deck are instants and sorceries, which allow us to trigger Arcane Bombardment on our opponent's turn, and I never mind them being exiled with the bombardment themselves. So I've got Brotherhood's End, which is crucial to survive those first few turns, as we are the epitome of a late game deck. I've got Play with Fire and Lightning Strike, which are great burn cards at instant speed. Big Score to get your bombardments down a turn early, and Tamiyo's Safekeeping to help protect your enchantments. There are a lot of ways opponents have these days to deal with enchantments, especially in Golgari, so I'm very happy to include this here. We've got 26 lands, but no creature lands, which are potentially another win condition you could put in, but you would have to add another colour to the mana base, potentially black for Restless Cottage, or even move to a more domain style deck if you choose. But I had a lot of fun today with some big wins with this particular deck, which I'm more than happy with. Anyway, if you have any thoughts on this deck or cards I could be playing with going forward, you can let me know in the comments below. You can find me over on Twitter, and as always, thank you for watching. Alright, on the draw. Not a very good hand, but this one seems keepable. I do like it when you get the Arcane Bombardment in your opening hand. It's something to work towards, and it is our deck, so we'll drop the Urabrask's Forge. I don't like putting that to the bottom of my deck here, but I prefer the cards we do have here. And a land there is excellent. So we're looking to Up the Beanstalk next turn, try and find a 3-drop, and then just hit some land drops to get to our bombardment as soon as possible. Opponent with a Kami of Transience, so it looks like we're up against enchantments. We did find a forest through Up the Beanstalk though, so that is good. Another Kami. Alright, so we go down to 18. Alright, no 3 mana play for us there. It would have been nice to get like a Brotherhood's End or something, but we can't be too picky. They do find a Jukai Naturalist, and yeah, they're going to whack us for 6 again. We go down to 12. Alright, well, we're going to burn down the house next turn. So let's Big Score now, see what we find. We don't need 2 bombardments, so we can discard one of them. Another Up the Beanstalk. So we could play Up the Beanstalk and then next turn burn down the house and draw 2. But I think I want to keep the treasure just for the minute in case we need to start double spelling with our Arcane Bombardment on the battlefield. Opponent with Hallowed Haunting. What, we're going to take 10 here? Alright, well, we're not dead. We're on 2. And we have a perfect play this turn, and I'm really racking my brains at this point trying to think, can a enchantment deck like theirs do 2 damage to me instantaneously? And I'm not entirely sure. So we need to get this bombardment down. We need to get burn down the house underneath it. We've just drawn play with fire, so that's going to be perfect at enabling the burn down the house or the arcane bombardment on the turn that we play it. We'll just see how this goes. Opponent with Calyx. We could shoot the 1/1 or the opponent's face here, but again, I think we need to keep these 1 mana instants in our hand. We'll play Arcane Bombardment here, though. And that does trigger the Up the Beanstalk. We find out burn down the house. So our graveyard has a big score and burn down the house. If we were to get the big score, it wouldn't be the end of the world. So I think we'll do this now. But we get the burn down the house. So mission accomplished here. We get to show the sweet, sweet synergies between Arcane Bombardment, Up the Beanstalk, and having a 5 mana spell underneath the bombardment. Opponent with another Kami of Transience, and I think we're going to be okay here. We can play this first Up the Beanstalk and draw a card. We get a forest, and I guess we might as well play the other one. And that's Lightning Strike, and that means we can basically play the Lightning Strike now. And then we have play with fire for our opponent's turn. This is going to draw us 3 cards. And we get to deal some damage to our opponent. I guess we could have play with fired their face. Sorry, Lightning Strike their face and play with fired the Kami instead. To do an extra damage there. But yeah, we get to create some devils. And we are now finding a way to get back into this game. We might as well attack there. And we'll just discard our tap land. And yeah, we'll just basically be casting Play with Fire on the opponent's turn here. They've taken quite a while on their turn, so hopefully they haven't disconnected. Looks like they're back. And it's another Kami of Transience, or one of the ones we've already seen. But yeah, we'll just do the whole Play with Fire turn again. So having been on the other side of the board here, I know it's pretty demoralizing against cards like Arcane Bombardment. But opponent could find something like a Boseiju, which would pretty much wreck us. We are getting so much value from these Up the Beanstalks here. So I've tried this deck with other colours as well. You can add white to it. I thought white and green worked pretty well as well, and just almost just splashing for the bombardment. But I really feel like this Gruul version it's pretty fun to play. And our opponent finally scoops it up. Alright, on the play with a really nice hand. The old Thrun Breaker of Silence with a Burn Down the House combo there. So Thrun will survive our board wipe. Opponent with a Recruitment Officer, okay. And we find another Thrun, which is not what we needed, but that'll be good fodder to throw away with our big score if we get there. Okay, opponent goes to attack. We're going to just take the damage. If they play Thalia now, I'm going to want to play land and Lightning Strike next turn to Thalia. Thalia kind of wrecks us a little bit. But they don't. They play Guardian of New Benalia, a card that we're going to find it difficult to get rid of anyway. I guess Thrun blocks it nicely, and I will now Lightning Strike the Recruitment Officer. So we just want to hit land drops over the next few turns. Rockfall Vale is absolutely perfect. And we are going to look to big score next turn. So hopefully opponent starts popping down loads of creatures so that our Burn Down the House has a maximum value. They do play Island though, which is I've got to be wary about for counter spells, but they do play a Officer which taps them out. And because of that, I'm going to big score now in case they do have a counter spell. And let's drop off Thrun. We find Mountain Lightning Strike. Okay. Well, I think we'll just Lightning Strike this officer, you know. We drew a 5th mana, which is all we need right now. Okay, so we are on 16 life against soldiers, it looks like, and I'm pretty happy with being on 16 life as we go into our 5th turn. They attack us with their Guardian, as it's just a 2-2. And another recruitment officer enters the battlefield. Okay, no other creature, but we're going to play Thrun anyway. And if that is a counter spell they've got in their hand, then Thrun cannot be countered. So a perfect little card here. Resolute Reinforcements instead. So I really like where we are. Hopefully they just throw more creatures on the battlefield. It is another officer. And they do not go to attacks. And yeah, this is what we're here to do. Burn down the house here is going to clear the board. And we get to keep our Thrun alive. They could save their Guardian of New Benalia, I guess. But they choose not to. We'll attack our opponent. They go down to 15. So our hand is looking a little bit bare. But we can cast our big score next turn. Throw away our Play with Fire if needed. They have an ossification. Well, that ain't going to work because Thrun has protection from everything that isn't green. Well, it can't be targeted by spells or abilities from opponents that aren't green. And opponent scoops it out when they see a big score on the stack. Alright, on the draw, and this is an extremely good hand for us. We have our Up the Beanstalk and Arcane Bombardment. Opponent with a Sleep Cursed Fairy. Okay. So if we're up against a control deck, we're looking for Thrun, as Thrun can't be countered. Hopefully we can find a way to get there. But we'll keep this Play with Fire open. See what our opponent wants to follow up with. It's another Fairy. Okay. Well, this is going to be great for the Brotherhood's End when we get there. So we're just going to shoot their face. Oh, well, they have a Swift Spear. Okay, well, we'll take care of the Swifty anyway. We could have probably just waited and then Brotherhood's End everything. But I want to try and stop any kind of damage coming to our face if possible. We are a late game deck. And these first few turns are all about survival. So the Urabrask's Forge is our kind of semi-win condition with Arcane Bombardment. Opponent with a Scalding Viper. Okay, well, we're just going to blow up the board here, do 3 damage to everything. And yeah, this is a game of patience. We'll be playing the Forge next turn. Unless it's countered, that is. Opponent is on an Izzet deck. Ledger Shredder and Hearth Elemental's Adventure, Stroke Genius. Discard your hand, draw 2. So, pretty nice card for them there as they had no cards left. But we will be playing the Urabrask's Forge here. And we will attack here. Oh, opponent takes damage, fair enough. Tamiyo Safekeeping is nice in this deck as it gives any permanent hexproof as opposed to just a creature. So we can save things like the Forge or our Bombardment. If opponents have things like Glisser or cards like that, that seem to be quite relevant at the moment. There's Thrun, which is going to be the most perfect 5-drop for us. This can't be countered, so if that is a counter spell in their hand, this is nice. And we'll attack our opponent here for 7. Maybe we should have gone to attacks first. Obviously, we're tapped out. They may have been a little less likely to block here. Yeah, I probably should have done that first, to be honest. Just attack. They would be maybe worried about a Play with Fire, but so be it. Discard your hand, draw 2 again. So our opponent is getting through their cards, especially with the Ledger Shredders conniving as they play Balmor. But a copy of one of our board wipes here would just wreck them a little bit. Although the Ledger Shredder is now a 4 toughness creature. Play with Fire at our face, and I guess they're going to attack us here for another 5. Yep, we go down to 10. Okay, That's a mountain. So we'll drop Arcane Bombardment here, as it's pretty much our only spell we can do. And we might as well attack with both creatures, as they can't block these flyers. Opponent takes it. They go down to 11. All right, big turn here. Do we survive? If we survive this, especially as we've just drawn Invoke the Ancients, we can drop those with reach counters, and I feel like we might be in business. All depends on what Arcane Bombardment can exile, though. So it always is a little bit risky. They do jump in there for 4 damage. We take it. We go down to 6. And that is another land for us. Alright, well, Invoke the Ancients is nice here. Obviously, the Tamiyo Safekeeping will allow us to trigger Arcane Bombardment on our opponent's turn. So we'll see what's underneath here. Alright, it's play with fire, so we will shoot the opponent's face here. And we'll attempt to close this game out as quick as possible. They're drawing a lot of cards, and I want to make sure that we kill them before they draw some way to do 6 damage to us. But these 2 4/5 spirits we're going to have with reach on the battlefield are going to be pretty strong at holding down the fort for us. So there's a lot going on at the moment, but yeah, we'll throw reach onto these. And these can block the Ledger Shredders quite nicely. And we can attack our opponent with both our creatures. So they're going to have to block one of these. They're going to take 5 here. And they go down to 4. So yeah, it's the big turn. We've got Tamiyo Safekeeping, which is going to gain us 2 life back. So we're effectively on 8. Plus we can do a whole load of shenanigans from the play with fire underneath the bombardment, and whatever we find when we exile a card from our graveyard. I'm fingers crossed it's the Invoke the Ancients. I would love to get that down. That would obviously trigger the Up the Beanstalk, but it is a Brotherhood's End instead, which I'm obviously not going to complain about. But I wanted some creatures down. So we'll just blow up the board, and we'll use this play with fire to take out the remaining toughness of this Hearth Elemental. Opponent is conniving with their Ledger Shredders. This one here, they're going to need to make sure that they have a non-creature spell to keep it alive. And they do. It has 4 toughness, so it survives the Brotherhood's End. But we gain 2 life. And opponent is attacking us with their Ledger Shredder. Well, ours has indestructible, doesn't it? Our 4/2. They're using the Witchstalker's Frenzy on the other one. But this is a bit of a kamikaze mission there by the Ledger Shredder, as we can just block that. That's another Brotherhood's End. And we should be good here. We got lethal, haven't we? Because we can just attack with the Forge. Opponent's on 4. So we got there eventually. And finally, after an eternity, our opponent allows us to kill them. Alright then, on the draw. And our hand is very medium here. We're very reliant on getting something to do on turn 2, 3 and 4. But if we can get to turn 5 and 6, we should be okay. Opponent with a Swift Spear. Alright deck, well, I'm going to just play with fire this now in case they have any instant speed shenanigans on their turn with this prowess creature. And it is another Swift Spear. And there it is, play with fire. Okay, so this is normally quite a lot for decks to deal with. 2 Swift Spears and a play with fire in the opening 2 turns. But there's a Brotherhood's End, which is our perfect card here, and this is why it is in the deck. Opponent with a Godric. Okay, well, Brotherhood's End got another target there. And we will clear the board. So I think we're in a pretty decent position here. We're on turn, 4 from our opponent, and we're still on 11 life against what appears to be a mono red deck. So we've got the Lightning Strike for this turn, next turn Thrun, and then hopefully we can pick up a 6th mana for the Bombardment. But Burn Down the House is... yeah, Burn Down the House is exactly what we could be dealing with there, as Thrun and Burn Down the House, a nice little combo. Opponent with Urabrask Forge, which I respect, as I love that card. Just going to block. They may have a pump spell here. or an instant, sorry, to Monstrous Rage. That's the one I was thinking of. Alright, I'm just going to create some little devils, I think. So we will hit our opponent. I'm just going to attack with the Thrun, I think. We'll leave the devils back for the minute. If they die, they still do 3 damage to our opponent. But we are on 11, and I don't trust that the opponent can't just kill us straight up. So I'm going to play slightly defensive. Opponent gets in there with their 2-1 Forge. Well, I'm just going to throw... I think I'm just going to throw all my devils in front of this. I'm certain they've got something in their hand, to be honest. And, yep, Monstrous Rage, okay. But the 2 lightning strikes we have with Thrun should be enough here for us to get over the line before the opponent takes us out. There's our 6th mana for Arcane Bombardment next turn. And I guess we just go to attacks here. Pop the opponent down to 7. The 2 lightning strikes will take them to 1. And then we can finish them off with Thrun. They just find a land. There's a Forge coming at us. And unless they can give this +6 power, then we are going to win next turn. And it doesn't look like they can kill us now, so we'll fire off the 2 lightning strikes. And our opponent needs a way to deal with Thrun now, which they can't. And yeah, we take down mono red, which I'm really happy about. Alright, on the draw, and our hand is fine. Opponent with a Swamp and an Evolved Sleeper. So we find a Lightning Strike, which is going to be great to deal with this Sleeper. And it is another Swamp, and yeah, they're just evolving it. I can deal with this. We're working towards Brotherhood's End, so as long as their creatures don't have more than 3 toughness, we should be okay. And Brotherhood's End conveniently takes care of Planeswalkers as well, so they want to throw down a Liliana along the way, we might be able to deal with that easier than normal. But in this instance, we will cast the Up the Beanstalk to enable our Thrun and burn down the house to get some value a bit later on. That is a Flesh Gorger from our opponent there, which means our Brotherhood's End is going to be an amazing spell here, as it's going to clear the Flesh Gorger without us targeting it. And the Sleeper as well, they've been putting their mana into. Next turn, as it stands, we've got a Karplusan Forest, a big score, probably getting rid of one of the Thruns. That is at Brotherhood's End. Okay, well they are evolving their Sleeper. They're going to go for it again. They do. Alright, well, I don't really want this to get too far out of hand, because I want Brotherhood's End to still be a sort of applicable board wipe here. So I'm going to just Lightning Strike the Sleeper whilst I can. At the moment, we don't need more than 5 mana, so I like my hand. And yeah, no more spells from our opponent. So my prediction right now is that they've got 3 removal spells in their hand. And unfortunately, our deck for them, it doesn't contain creatures. My issue with Thrun is that there are a couple of spells our opponents could have that can deal with Thrun, even though it can't be targeted by black spells. Things like Sheoldred's Edict or Liliana will quite nicely deal with that. So I'm a little bit reluctant just to play that right now. I'm going to slow the game down a little bit. And this might seem a bit extreme, but I'm going to burn down the house now. I don't want this Sleeper to start gaining loads of value and them start drawing loads of cards, especially as they're down to 2. Also, the burn down the house did trigger our own Up the Beanstalk and allowed us to draw a card. And that card was Lightning Strike. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, they've just got removal in their hand and they're just casting whatever creatures they find. So let's play these, or let's channel our Sokenzan here. And get in there with these 2 little 1/1s. And if they've got removal, they now have to decide if they want to take care of 2 1/1s. And it is a cut down. And a cut down, yeah. So, yeah, a lot of removal in their deck. But I am kind of like appreciating these not many creature decks at the moment. But we will cast Thrun now, and we'll see what we can do with this. Doesn't look like they've got anything. They definitely don't have like an Edict or something, which is what I was worrying about. So Liliana is what I'm worrying about now, but I feel like they would have already cast that. Debt to the Kami. They choose Enchantment, not... Okay, so they've gone for Up the Beanstalk. I've cast Big Score in response. I thought they were targeting my Thrun. Exile a creature they control. Yeah, I think they may have wanted to go after our creature there. Because I don't know how they can deal with Thrun, unless they've got something in their hand that can already deal with that. But anyway, let's get this Forge down, and let's start attacking our opponent. Let's start clearing this opponent's life down to 0. And they go down to 10. And Lightning Strike, burn down the house. I really like where we are right now, to be honest. Thruns are a huge issue for our opponent here. Yeah, they're hovering over it. Reading the card. Okay, Gix's command. Alright, that deals with Thrun. We have to sacrifice our Thrun there. Okay, so they did have something. Fair enough. And they got to put their Flesh Gorger and Sleeper back into their hands. Well, we can deal with Flesh Gorger with our burn down the house. And we can actually deal with the Sleeper with our Lightning Strike, which I think we'll do now whilst we have some mana open. Another burn down the house. All right, that is... yeah, that's going to be backbreaking for our opponent, but... hopefully now they just put 7 mana into casting this Flesh Gorger. And... yep, that's their turn, so we will blow up the board and attack them with their Forge. With our Forge, sorry. So our deck takes a little while to get going. But once it gets going, our engines are just... I think they're just way too much for a lot of our opponent's decks that I'm currently facing. Obviously, there's cards like Farewell that would deal with us, but I haven't seen that card for a good minute, you know. And Play with Fire should be enough to finish them off, so we'll just attack them with a 4-1. Could have made some Devils there. Just don't see the need right now. And opponent goes down to 1, and Play with Fire should finish them off. And yeah, this deck has been really fun to play with today.